Flight boss, bitch. For sure. You're not listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon. I am the Royal Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And this video right here is going to be about where the moon at. Now, the moon is in a specific degree of Aldebaran or Aldebaran. Whatever the fuck you want to call it. God damn it, if you lost in language, Arabian, Greek, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, etymology. However, for the most part, you need to know. That's where the moon is transitioning at. Now, what does this actually mean? Now, when we start to talk about the nodings of the moon, we're not talking about the nodes of the moon. We're talking about the actual transition, the progression of the moon that develops the calculation that we call the nodes of the moon. So this is the moon progression, right? The moon transition. Now, based upon it being right here at this moment, it's in the beginning stages of the head of the dragon. Now, since we're talking about the noding of the moon, this would represent the tail of the dragon. If we was lost into Eastern philosophy and China and things of that nature, or Egypt, this would represent the tail of the dragon. So right now, the tail of the dragon, which is the moon, is in a direct space where the head of the dragon originally got flung from the Orion constellation, had sex, joining of energies with the 6th house, manifested in the 5th house, drawn down to the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd, and got exalted in the 1st house when we was moving backwards as spirits. So this helps you understand that the houses is a dark space based upon a whole bunch of dead weight. And what is dead weight? Light forms that have already accumulated together. And once a group of rainbows come together, it creates darkness. So we create what we call darkness and wombs and Gnosticism and Sophia and feminine and receiving energy. And what we're correlating in astrology today, in today's time, as the houses. So we created that. It's just that's why when certain stars that came after the fact, move through certain houses, it go through certain houses that don't like, it go through certain houses that's mundane, it go through certain houses that does like, because it's going through a wave of a whole bunch of dead weight, aka old footprints in the sand that was previously here, but goddamn it, the motherfucker energy have accumulated into something else, and once too much energy is in one area, it becomes what we perceive as darkness. But when we go through it, we receive influences. That's why you dream through the darkness. That's why when you experience internal energy, it's darkness, but you always receive influence, and that influence let you know it's an accumulation of light forms that was already here, existences that was already here, but have died and expired, and now it's just something that you're going through and experiencing, so you to get to your next travel. So this let you know, as spirits, we're utilizing dead things, dead organs, dead flesh, and as a spirit, we jump into it and give it life, aka some second new dead flesh, aka consciousness, and that becomes the man. And then the woman becomes the flesh that have died. And then that comes as a joining of energy that we get intertwined in as a spirit to experience existences and things of that nature. But for the most part, when we got the moon, right, going through 8 degrees, the reason why I broke all this down is because 2,000 years ago, there's been a transition. And that dark space that accumulated that was once light, that had became houses, right? During the Orion time, or that philosophy, or that very time of man and woman that became human and male and female, have been going through a transition from 0 degrees of that sign in the sky. Not actually the constellation, but the sign, the influence that we go through, which is the house. Now, over the 2,000 year transition, it is now in the 3rd houses, or the mutable signs in the sky. And then for the most part, that's where the original space, how we could perceive it now, it have moved along. So don't get lost in the Eastern and the Vedic or sidereal, and don't get lost too much in the Western. Create some type of equilibrium in there so you can understand that you are within a house, and you are a star that's in that house. And once you get born as a star, you move through the houses also. So, don't get lost into Eastern and Vedic, where you're starting to call yourself one of these lost stars, wandering stars, following stars. And don't get too lost into Western, where you forget that these houses isn't the same thing as the actual stars, aka the constellations. Because when you're saying a constellation, you're actually saying a group of stars. So learn how to understand it between the two, and you'll understand your place in the world. Now, once we start to talk about the moon right now being in Aldebaran or Aldebaran, right? It's in the original space where the head originally was at, which is the dragon. So right now, the tail is the moon. So the moon represents our emotional states, our moods, the moon, our vibe, the moon tides. So the vibrations that we're going through, you know what I'm saying, could be risen or could be lowered, or could be mundane based upon full moon, half moon, or motherfucking crescent moon, or motherfucking new moon. But for the most part, this takes us into different spaces of experience in the dark. And what was once in the dark, that's still there, but we can't see it because it's have accumulated. And when we start to talk about forms of light, it's only correlated to brightness and dimness, right? So dimness is the accumulation, brightness is the newness. So that takes you to everything being in reverse spiritually. And y'all living backwards in the third dimension thinking that it's based upon photons and shit. But other than that, y'all counting on the energy first and infinite regress as far as mentally, even if you don't believe in infinite regress. But with the moon, aka the tail of the dragon, being in the birthplace of the head of the dragon, we are in an emotional space where we're giving birth to the tail end of something. Giving birth, Aldebaran, 8 degrees, Gemini, 9 degrees, because it's after the year 2000 and 2012 in that little transitional period when Saturn was going through Libra and things of that nature, 2012 and shit. So for the most part, this puts us into a situation where in 9 degrees right now, Gemini, the moon is transitioning through that area. And the moon represents the tail. So Aldebaran represents birth, springing in, new, aka the birth, and the tail, our emotional state, represents the tail end. So right now, this is the birth of the tail end of an emotional state that we have been in. And whatever this emotional state is in involves a person, place, or thing. And whatever we was emotionally connected to, with the moon transitioning through this period for the next hour, right? Because the moon moves a sign every 2 hours. So it's been here, 24, 30 minutes or some way, shape, or form. So yeah, next hour, hour and a half. For the most part, do this little transition right now and the rest of the day is putting us into an emotional state where we feel this is the period where this is the birth of the tail end of something, aka something we have been emotionally holding on to, but we know that it have been loosening up. We know that it have been distancing. We know that it have been drifting. And whatever this person, place, or thing is that we're emotionally connected to, right now we are in a space where we are at the birth of the tail end that's at it, aka we are at the start of emotionally coming to grips with letting it go in some way, shape, or form. So, and what's going to help us with that is the transition of that space where it's at the moment, aka Aldebaran. It's in 9 degrees Gemini. So we have to utilize a lot of Hades energy, but also Taurus energy, but also Gemini energy. So this is mutable air, being mutable and being able to adapt to your own and other people's ways of thinking and communicating, being more open and not so constructed in your own mentality and ways of conversating. Fixed earth, being fixated on your own way of thinking and being practical and making sense out of things, even if it means you have to be stubborn or consistent on whatever idea that you're trying to maintain a position on. And you have to utilize Hades. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. You have to fight within yourself to get out of these old emotions and feelings, aka go to war with those Medusas and things of that nature. You have to utilize Perseus, utilize a sword, aka utilize your mental construct, be mentally hard, regardless of what emotions derive up to your higher chakras, to make that be on your mind, to start to manifest into your life when those two join sex in the middle of your heart chakra, where your higher chakras and your lower chakras meet in between and start to manifest out based upon the things that you care about and use charity towards. You have to be mentally strong to hold those dragons down. And also with the moon going through the space right now, it helps us develop emotions and feelings of the Archangel Michael energy. The ability to kill the Kundalini, to kill the dragon, to kill a desire, right? And when those emotions and those Leviathan fires and dragons do start to rise up to your higher chakras, you got Archangel Michael energy that's able to develop ideas and thoughts on how to make those stay down there and not stay on your mind, to develop circumstances and situations in your life via people, places, and things that represent that energy from your lower chakras that's trying to rise above to your heavens. So what you need to understand is this. Right now, you probably already feel this energy. It's something that you have been emotionally connected to, and you're at the birth, aka the beginning of the tail end of that. And you're developing all these thoughts and feelings on coming to grips on, okay, it's okay to let that go, and why it's needed to let go in some way, shape, or form. And this is the energy that it takes us in, because this is exaltation, it's a rising, it's birth, it's spring, it's springing in, it's newness in some way, shape, or form. And those elemental energies that I just broke down is how you access that energy as a filtering system, due to the fact of Aldebaran being so far away. And our only access we have to it is Gemini, Taurus, and Hades, and Perseus, and things of that nature. So keep this in mind. So whatever that you are emotionally attached to and you know you need to let go, go ahead and let it go right now, and utilize all those elemental energies to let that shit go, so you can be into this new space freely. And no matter how hard it is, that's how hard you're going to make Michael fight in your life, aka that little space that you could jump into and take the artillery that Michael have and actually fling that dragon right down where it needs to motherfucking be. Therefore, you could go into a new space in these esoteric streets with more freedom, more lightness. You know what I'm saying? Not so much emotional connection to things that'll drag you down and make you miss opportunities that don't necessarily need to be missed, based upon you being nervous or scared because of too much of the North Node energy of unfamiliarity or uncomfortability. And like I said, we're going to go live tonight in this motherfucker. And after I break down everything and shit like that, we can answer some questions and we could do a live call-in in this motherfucker shit. And you know what I'm saying? If motherfuckers ain't calling, we'll just shut it down. But like I said, we're going to keep this thing running until my motherfucking main page open back up in this motherfucker. And like I said, right now we're all going through an emotional ascension right now. Emotional instability, but also that comes with emotional ascension, aka where we're forced to be a birdie and kicked off the nest, aka going to a new space, and we're forced to develop new thoughts and feelings because of this new circumstance and situation of this spiral that we're in, as far as this big old esoteric wave that we're experiencing right now. So it has been a new shift. And this new shift have took us out of the spiritual realm. And right now, with this moon being in Aldebaran and Gemini, and then getting ready to go into Cancer, it's going to remind us on how much the spirit means to us in some way, shape, or form, and how much you have let it go. And I love y'all from the bottom of my motherfucking heart. Yee-hee.